Good morning, everyone. This was posted by CBC on June 14th, and today is June 15th. Canadian scientists sent deadly viruses to Wuhan lab months before RCMP asked to investigate. Documents show concerns about Ebola shipment from National Microbiology Lab, no relation to COVID-19. Newly released Access to Information documents reveal details about a shipment of deadly pathogens last year from Canada's National Microbiology Lab to China, confirming for the first time who sent them, what exactly was shipped, and where it went. And I scroll down a little bit. It says the virus shipments are not related to the outbreak of COVID-19 or research into the pandemic, Canadian officials have said. I think that it's interesting. They sent these samples to labs that do, what's it called? It's called gain of function. Gain of function experiments mean they splice viruses together and then test them to see if the virus has become more deadly or infectious. This is part of the article. I scrolled down a little bit here. Quote, we have a researcher who was removed by the RCMP from the highest security laboratory that Canada has for reasons that the government is unwilling to disclose. The intelligence remains secret, but what we know is that before she was removed, she sent one of the deadliest viruses on Earth and multiple varieties of it to maximize the genetic diversity and maximize what experimenters in China could do with it to a laboratory in China that does dangerous gain-of-function experiments, and that has links to the Chinese military. Gain-of-function experiments are when a natural pathogen, such as Ebola, is taken into a lab, made to mutate, and then assessed to see if it has become more deadly or infectious. Most countries, including Canada, don't do these kind of experiments because they're considered too dangerous, a Tran said. Quote, the Wuhan lab does them, and we now have supplied them with Ebola and Nipah, I think that's how you say that, viruses. It does not take a genius to understand that this is an unwise decision, he said. I'm extremely unhappy to see that the Canadian government shared that genetic material. Now, consider, if the Wuhan laboratory had any hand in this, and there are a lot of intelligent people, people in the United States, etc., who say that this virus was not naturally occurring due to specific pointers and things, it looked like it was made in a lab. If that lab leads back to Canada, even though we've walked them out, I mean, Canada's locked right down any information on this. This has been something that I noticed back when it happened, right? I think I reported on it. I said, that's not good, especially within the context of China, right? Like with China and all the trade difficulties with the Mengwenzhou, Huawei, 5G, all of this stuff is like coming to a head. And if we've somehow supplied China with things that have helped them, I mean, look at what COVID-19 did. If this is a weapon of economic warfare, it worked really well, right? We're bankrupt. We don't have any money, right? The provinces are like Ontario, for an example, is $350 billion in the hole. The provincial or the federal government has spent $350 billion on the response to this, and they keep spending money outside of Canada as well. We're consistently sending money outside of Canada. We just signed another 10 million plus. I think maybe it was 15 million, but I'm not exactly sure of the price for Fiji and Pacific Islands. So I mean, it seems really strange to be in that much debt and to double down. And I think this is a concerning development with regard to our friends and allies. I think that if Trump connects the dots and he's not stupid, that's concerning. Here's something else that's interesting. If you're a far left activist, rioter, protester, you're a peaceful protester who only injures 37 police officers or whatever the number was the other day during the peaceful protest, right? And you decapitate statues and you tear down statues and history and property, and you destroy businesses and vandalize things, etc. You are left alone by the police. But if you are a far right protester and you show up to protect your statues or your property or your whatever, you will get kettled by the police in the United Kingdom. This is what happened, according to CTV News. Far-right activists scuffle with police by London monuments. So the Antifa people who are decapitating the statues get applauded. Oh, they're totally right. We should definitely destroy our history because of racism, because history is racist. But when you try and defend the history, then you are part of the problem and need to be dealt with by the police. But the looters and rioters, they're not part of the problem. They are right and should be listened to like people who have followed the correct steps to get change that they wanted to. Right? It's very, very strange. It's just like the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs who declared that they were in charge of the land. That's not how land ownership works in that community. And I think that it's really interesting that the Canadian government so quickly decided to be on the side of these chiefs and not on the side of the elected people. So I mean, the double standard is palpable, right? Like it is there, it exists, and I mean, what are you going to do? And it's not just in police action, it's all across the media too. Here's NBC News, a little over an hour apart. Rally for Black Trans Lives draws packed crowd to Brooklyn Museum Plaza. And then here's President Trump plans to rally his supporters next Saturday for the first time since most of the country was shuttered by the coronavirus, but health experts are questioning that decision. Extraordinarily dangerous if you look at the headline. Top officials sound dire warning about Trump rallies. So if you're rallying for Trump, that's extremely dangerous. The virus is going to get you. But if you're rallying for black trans lives, then, it's a packed crowd and look at that, fists up, yay, everybody's excited, right? Here's another one. CBS News watch footage shows a speaker addressing the massive crowd at a rally for black transgender lives in Brooklyn, New York on Sunday, right? Here's CBS News. Scott Gottlieb, that's probably wrong, says he would counsel against Trump holding large rallies. Scott Gottlieb said he would counsel against that, right? Yeah, I mean, if it's Trump, he probably shouldn't do it. Here's another one. Thousands parade in Brooklyn, liberation rally and march for black trans lives. This is a different tweet on the same topic, which is, I was scrolling through CTV News and they do that all the time. Here's another one. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo said Sunday that he would revoke the liquor licenses of bars and restaurants that have large crowds that are in violation of coronavirus restrictions. New York was one of the epicenters of like the big riots when things really kicked off originally, and that was a-okay. In fact, politicians were kneeling, right? And now it's a dangerous thing to open your business. The double standard is inappropriate, and the resentment that it's breeding to the media, to the politicians, to the trust in the politicians. We'll fine you for opening your business. How dare you open your business? But go to this protest. It is a double standard that is not tolerable. Here's another one. CTV News. Trump rally called dangerous move in age of coronavirus. Now, I couldn't find and it only went back to June 9th. So I could only scroll back to June 9th. And unless I had I would have to do some more Twitter foo to find the pro CTV gathering tweets because they were long ago. But what CTV does is they repeat the tweets a lot, like every 6 hours or something like that. They send a whole big block of tweets, and it's like, and sometimes they'll retweet the same thing or tweet exactly the same thing 10 or 12 minutes apart. If they get a bunch of comments they don't like, they'll just tweet another one and then maybe delete the one with the bad comments. So they play games, man. It's a very insidious thing, but they have multiple tweets of the same stories. If you go back through their timeline, I went back 5 days looking for the yin to this yang, and I couldn't find it. I know I've seen the CTV tweeting pro Black Lives Matter rally stuff, but it's immaterial, really. It's notable how many news organizations tweet pro rally negative Trump stuff, and it's just and even in Canada, right? Like, it's crazy here. Here's Global News. More than 1,500 Calgarians fill streets in second protest in wake of George Floyd's death. Calgarians, George Floyd, right? Come on. Trump rally amid COVID-19, dangerous move, experts say. Who are those experts? Both of those. Okay, there's one posted June 1st, one posted June 14th, right? The pro rally June 1st, pro Trump June 14th. And I think that would be the case again with CTV. I just didn't go back far enough, and I didn't have the language to advanced search it, so I'd be shooting in the dark, and I'd probably get it, but we've all seen it, right? Like, it's a coordinated effort to push the same thing. If you are going out to protest the lockdown, if you're going out to protest that your rights are being infringed upon, if you're going out to say I should be able to open my business if these people can be out here doing this, you are a deplorable yahoo. And if you are going out there to protest Black Trans Lives Matter, then the virus can't get you. You've got SJW shield up. Right? And the virus just bounces right off it. It doesn't matter what you do. You can lick toilet seats, man. It's crazy. If you're licking a toilet seat for Black Lives Matter, protected. Unbelievable. right? Like, it's crazy. It is crazy. And the news, what's even worse is that they do this with a straight face. Like, they do this thinking that they are being morally correct in what they're saying and what they're doing, right? They are pushing this with the feeling that we're being good citizens because we're helping people or something, right? Like, we're shaping the people into believing what they should believe to be good citizens. Even the Toronto Star is sick of this, though. Hebert is publishing an opinion piece that was published in the Toronto Star. Justin Trudeau has 2 sets of pandemic rules, one for Parliament and one for himself. Here it is. We're going to read it. With cameras in tow, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was out touring one of his government's pandemic relief programs in an Ottawa area business on Thursday. A week ago, Trudeau joined an anti-racism march in progress on Parliament Hill. With every passing sortie, it is becoming harder for the Prime Minister to maintain with a straight face that the pandemic and the social distancing that attend it stand in the way of a return to normal sittings in the House of Commons. While distance may make the heart grow fonder in the case of human relationships, the same is not turning out to be true when it comes to the interactions between the minority government and its 4 opposition counterparts. On Wednesday, the House adjourned after only 12 minutes as a result of a standoff between the opposition and government over the latter's latest legislation initiative. The bill, a hodgepodge of pandemic-related measures, had been circulated beforehand among the parties. Even as it sought unanimous support to have it passed over a single sitting, the government had to have known it was unlikely to have the votes to secure its adoption. An offer to set aside some of its most contentious sections was only made after the full Liberal package had predictably hit a wall. The NDP had made it clear it would not support the introduction of punitive measures designed to discourage or punish potential abuse of the Canadian Emergency Relief Benefit, CERB. The Bloc Québécois wanted to guarantee that a fiscal update would be forthcoming before Canada Day in exchange for its cooperation. Isn't that telling that they were like, maybe? No, that's fine. The Conservatives have for weeks been calling for a return to regular agenda in the Commons, like a budget and, accountability and all that stuff. Trudeau spent part of the next morning touring a local business to showcase his government's wage subsidy program. In all but name, it was a campaign-style event. Yes, and that's exactly what I said too. Asked what he made of his minority government's failure to secure a consensus to advance its latest bill, its first since the beginning of the pandemic crisis, Trudeau turned his guns on the opposition and majority. On the opposition majority in general and the Conservative parties in particular. But beyond calling on other parties to stop playing what he called political games, Trudeau had little to offer to end the standoff. The Prime Minister may be relying on public pressure on opposition parties to not rock the government boat in a time of crisis to facilitate the resolution of the current impasse. He may or may not have noticed that as Canada reopens, that pressure is relenting. At the same time, Trudeau's rationale for insisting on not reopening the House for regular business until the end of September is wearing thin. I think it's funny that we're on stage 2 of opening, and the provincial government is, I think they're back in I don't think they ever left the chamber. I think they were still running government kind of as usual. But I haven't been paying as close attention to Doug Ford. I've been watching some of the updates, but I haven't been paying as close attention. But I think that it's notable that we're in stage 2 and Ottawa is in Ontario. And does Trudeau not believe that the government is at least at that level of, stage 2? We've got hair salons, right? I mean, that's not you can't figure out the House of Commons now, man? What kind of incompetent government are you running? It's really, really jarring. Here is Spencer Fernando. He says, Canada is not a racist country. I think the whole thing is worthwhile. And the whole time I was like, didn't you play Superman in an early or late 90s? Dean Cain, Terry Hatcher, Lois and Clark. Isn't that? The whole time I was going to reply didn't you? But that's terrible. But I'm sorry, Spencer. Wonderful content. And the whole time I was like, he's going to just, right? And he's going to run off. Okay. Nothing but respect, sir. I mean that. Okay, moving on. This is the last story for this morning, and man, it's weird. It's weird. It's just weird. I took umbrage with the use a minister using Pimpa movement, and I understand that is the name of the essay. Okay, this is the name of the essay that Nathan Bihar, I think that's how you say that. I don't know. I don't watch football. Wrote, and. So I thought, okay, first of all, I don't know that interviewing the author of this piece is a good idea. I don't know that it's a good idea for a minister, specifically the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities, to have an interview with this person because, well, I mean, I read this, And within the first paragraph, it references Kendrick Lamar's black and white album cover. And I've never heard of, I've heard of Kendrick Lamar. I thought he was a basketball player. Is he a basketball player? I don't know. I don't know who Kendrick Lamar is really. But I guess he's a rapper, and he's a good rapper, I suppose. But he says the adopted voice, this is he, the author of the piece here, Nathaniel, excuse me. He says, the adopted voice of the Black Lives Matter movement, Kendrick Lamar, has always done what many wish they could, transfer meaning through words and tell tales specific to themselves and their people. We've stared at his Grammy-winning black and white album cover to pimp a butterfly for 5 years. Here's that album cover. To pimp a butterfly. So you'll notice there's a bottle of something or other. There's stacks of cash, more bottles, lots of black people, and then a dead judge. And he calls the author of the piece, Nathaniel, calls him a dead lawyer, but I think he's a judge. He's got a like, lawyers don't carry the what's this called? You know, that thing. Gavel. Lawyers don't have gavels. Judges have gavels, right? Like this here says to me gavel. Says to me judge, not lawyer. But this is quite an interesting reference piece. Like this kind of sets the tone for the rest of the article, right? He talks about how on June 1st, we watched as peaceful protesters stood in unity only to be met by tear gas, kiss sanctions by the world's leading white supremacist in front of that same tacky columned house of sin. He's talking about the White House. Here, the world watched as protesters set ablaze that same White House lawn that Dennis Revere so vividly captured in that album artwork half a decade ago. So this is in front of the White House. I didn't even notice the White House. So the dead white judge and the black people and the White House on top. And this is like, okay, like, I find it interesting that the minister is rushing to embrace an interview with this person. And I find, maybe I'm going to watch this, because why would you glorify such a violent visual imagery? Right? Like, this is, and then why would you frame it this way? It's almost glorifying. And I mean, this is glorifying. This is glorifying. The album cover is glorifying. Glorifying violence. There's a lot more that it says. And I mean, like, it is a really interesting piece. You can have a lot of discussion around it. I'm interested where this discussion will go. I mean, is this representative of racism in Canada? Like, you really have to wonder that. Like, why is the Canadian minister looking at this so closely? Why is she pushing this? Why is this the main leading part of of this piece, right? Of the To Pimp a Movement piece. It's very, very disappointing from our government. And I mean, like, our government's disappointing on every single level. Like, there isn't one thing that they've done that I've said, yeah, man, you guys really got that one right. But this is just getting it really, really wrong. Really wrong. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Nathaniel sharing his vision and his interpretation of life and all of that other stuff. I just fail to see how a Canadian minister's embrace of this is a positive thing, and how it will meaningfully and positively move the discussion on racism forward, right? Maybe I misspoke when I said I agreed with Spencer and Canada's not a racist country. Our leadership is really trying hard to push us to be a racist country. Any conversation that is against what they're doing is seen as racism. But I don't think I'm engaging in racism in this. And I think that highlighting this and glorifying this is a mistake. To stoke these fires, because we don't have the same history as the United States. And I think that looking at this through the lens of that is folly. And having a minister like Miss McKenna validate this, back it up, say that this is correct and right, because I don't think this is going to be a you called him a lawyer and he's clearly a judge kind of interview, right? Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see how this goes. I don't know. I can't guarantee that I'm going to watch it on Facebook Live, but I will probably watch it after that so I can watch it in double time and just shake my head and pick my jaw up off the floor after less invested time in it. I don't know. But dangerous. I think that it is a very, very poor government that needs to resort to tactics like this. And I fear Canada has a very, very poor government. And we don't have a road to a quick fix here. Like, I don't know what a quick fix looks like. I don't even know what a long-term fix looks like, because the longer these people stay in power, the longer this stuff bubbles, and the more they foster it, and the more money the more oxygen they get. Dangerous. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com, check out CanadaReport.co, and check out SpeakingMoistly.co, and have a wonderful, wonderful